Welcome to the latest episode of the Forecast in 5. I'm your host, Seth Katz. Joining us today is Brian Buck, who serves as CEO of Scoutwork North America. In this capacity, Brian spearheads a team of negotiation experts dedicated to helping clients gain more valuable deals, resolve conflicts faster, strengthen relationships, and create a deal-making culture that produces consistent results. Brian has also spent more than 20 years in marketing, developing consumer engagement strategies for the likes of Google, Amazon, Samsung, Microsoft, and Sony. Additionally, Brian is a UCLA Anderson alum as he received his MBA from the school. Welcome, Brian. Appreciate you being with us today.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
Of course. So let's get started with some questions.
Absolutely.
Scoutwork is recognized as the world's #1 independent negotiation consultancy and specializes in driving results by optimizing a company's entire deal-making ecosystem. Can you tell us briefly what Scoutwork exactly considers negotiation to be, and why is it important?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, we are obsessed with negotiation. It's one of those things. It's a life skill. We all start developing this, when we're kids. The first time we ask our caregivers, parents, grandparents, whoever it may be for something, they said no. Let the negotiation skills development begin, and that's where it all is. And as we grow up, as we're navigating, negotiating the rules on the playground, to getting our first jobs and so forth and so on, it's a life skill. From our point of view, the reason why it's so important is that we study about $8 trillion worth of commerce a year, and I can tell you a lot about the untrained negotiator. And there's some really interesting facts that come out when we ask negotiators or regular people like you and me can you identify the benefits of what you just negotiated? Interestingly, less than 40% of the people can. When we ask them if they can identify the long-term value of what they've negotiated, even fewer, barely 20% can. And then when we ask them about how's the relationship now with the other side, the other side that you've spent all this time with working through some sort of agreement, has your relationship been strengthened? And again, only about 20% of the people say it's been strengthened. So if we flip that on its head, you've got about 70 to 80% of negotiators out there destroying value and destroying relationships. What's disturbing about that is if you think about it in business, almost every single business relationship begins with some sort of negotiation. And if we're starting from a place of destroying relationships, destroying value, boy, you're really starting in a difficult place. And if we think about who we actually negotiate with, it's those that we work with, those that we do business with, and those that we live with. And so we're trying to help people be on the 20% side of that. Start from a place of strengthening relationships, building value, and really using negotiation for a positive gain for both parties and the relationship at large. So we just think it's a critical element to any business's success and really any professional or human being trying to navigate this crazy world we live in.
Thanks. That's a helpful overview. Moving on to the next question. Scoutwork celebrates its 50th year next year with offices in 46 countries and delivers its negotiating consultancy and training in 29 languages. What do you believe has enabled Scoutwork to experience this impressive growth, ultimately allowing it to become the global organization it is today?
Well, I think the first thing is this is all we focus on. So we've developed a niche. We've identified something that's valuable, and it's something that is extremely beneficial. So that's your basic core to having any successful business. When it comes to how we approach negotiation, it's a very practical approach. So we spent 50 years really studying how people negotiate. And what we've been able to identify is a very human-based 8-step process to negotiation. So from that, we've identified all the skills that you need as well. So we've taken something that can be very abstract, something that's difficult maybe for people to understand, if you will, and we've made it very practical and very accessible. And so with that, then it becomes, well, how do we get it out there? And we've really prioritized the quality of what we do over anything else. So we have negotiation consultants all over the world. We operate in about 104 countries with operations in 46, speaking, as you said, up to 29 different languages. But we've really prioritized the quality of what everybody does. So everybody goes through an excruciating amount of training to really learn this human behavior, learn how to coach it, teach it. And so the quality of what we do is really consistent globally. And when you prioritize that quality over anything else, your growth may not be as fast as others, but it's solid. And we're on a foundation that is rooted in decades of proven success, and I think that just gives us a lot of momentum. I mean, how many businesses get to say that they're celebrating 50 years? So, we're really excited about that. But I think it all comes back down to the basics. We have something that's valuable. We've made it accessible, and we've really highlighted making sure our people know how to deliver that consistently.
That's certainly an impressive story, 50 years. What's the greatest benefit to an organization when utilizing a company like Scott Work and its negotiation services?
Well, I think there's a few things that go into this. If you think about many negotiations, maybe ones that you've been in, negotiations can at times be really emotional. You may have something writing on it. It could be, hey, this deal is going to enable your organization to do X. You may have a bonus writing on it, or a commission, or you're being judged by how good this deal is. So innately, the emotion is there. So an organization like ours, when we come in and we're consulting on deals, is that we can help you take that emotion out of it, or at least level set. We don't want people going in completely emotionless, but we want to keep those emotions in check. So that's the first thing that we'll do, is we'll help you with that emotion. The next thing is lots of people approach negotiation with their blinders on. They see the world the way they want to see the world. They hope the negotiation is going to go the way that they hope it's going to go. But in all reality, there's going to be many curveballs. There's going to be disruptions. There's going to be things we didn't anticipate that are going to show up. So an organization like ours will help you take those blinders off and really plan for all the different elements that can happen. I mean, we work in hundreds of different industries. So what might be unique in yours is not unique someplace else. So we get to take those transferable lessons and help you be smarter before you sit down at the table. The third part to it is literally the way that we help people get prepared. So it's a thorough process that goes beyond just what typically most people do, which is the data analytics, and they get their data and reports together. And boy, I can't wait to out-persuade the other side, if you will. But we'll help them prepare in a way that will allow them to be adaptable and flexible in the moment. We'll work with them running simulations and doing all those sorts of things as well. And that's just on the deal front. When we look more long-term, there's a whole skills development piece as well, that we take any skill level of a negotiator and we will help them refine all of those skills. And we have some wonderful training programs that we take people through. Again, very practical. Those programs, you're doing 80% of the work. It's like 20% lecture, 80% of doing. So really hands-on experience where we're filming you, we're playing that film back to you and breaking it down and showing what's working and not working. And then the third piece of that is most organizations don't have a defined negotiation process. They tell people to go do it, but how do you do it? And the challenge that we see for leaders is that when you're trying to support a negotiation your team is working on, if you don't have a defined process, it makes it really difficult to resource it, support it, or even know actually what's going on. So we'll help them come in and document their process and make sure that it fits in with either their sales process or their procurement process or financial process, whatever it might be. So when we look at those three elements, we can help you on the deals, we can help you develop your team, and we can help you define your process, all making your negotiations more valuable, more streamlined, and more efficient.
All good points. I read that your greatest enjoyment is helping people overcome their obstacles, particularly when it comes to negotiating. Would you say this is something you started doing earlier in your career when working in marketing roles? And did your Anderson MBA experience play a role in bolstering your ability to help?
Well, yes to both of those. So it probably started even earlier than my marketing career. I just had the great benefit of having a lot of mentors who were investing a lot in me, so to speak. And when I was younger, just overcoming my own issues and obstacles, and it was sort of driven in me that I wanted to give back in that way. So when I started my career in marketing. Well, first of all, my whole job is to help our brands connect with their customers. So that's really that obstacle, and helping customers, through their obstacles, connect back with our brand. So that was just innately part of it. But I wouldn't say that, I was altruistic and, oh, my mission and purpose was to do that. But in going through and working on strategy and helping brands overcome that, helping my teams achieve their success along the way, it just became more and more rewarding to see everybody else's success and to see them get through their obstacles more so than it was for me. And so that just kind of became that thing that I gravitated towards. But what I found fascinating is when I came to UCLA and went through the Anderson MBA program, I had a bit of hubris as I walked in. I thought I kind of knew more than what I actually did. And what was great about Anderson was that it took what I discovered to be a very narrow toolbox and really expanded it. It gave me so many more tools to look at things in a completely different way than what I had looked at it before. And so with that, it just gave me the opportunity to really take that passion that was starting to really burn in me of helping others and take these other skill sets and really amplify that even further. So, when the opportunity to come join ScottWorks showed up, which, by the way, I found ScottWorks as a participant. I was in one of their skills development programs. I was the guy sitting in the back of the room, arms folded, going, "Oh, I know everything there is to know." Well, guy, humbled again. And it was just a very life-changing experience for me. And so when all of this came together, it just seemed perfect for me to do this. But, just like I said, I think the tools that I got from Anderson really, really helped expand my ability to do those sorts of things.
Yeah, and thanks for reflecting on your Anderson experience, and especially the mentoring piece. That's important as well.
Absolutely.
As we look ahead in the next 5 to 10 years in this changing business environment, and especially as deal making gets more complex, what should those who are new to serving in leadership roles keep in mind as it relates to utilizing negotiation services?
That's such a great question, because when we look at the times ahead, this is one of the things I appreciate about the forecast is the forecast helps contextualize what's going on and what the future may bring. There's a lot of uncertainty in any future. Doesn't really matter what the future is. There's lots of uncertainty. So part of the challenge that's going to be for leadership is I think that uncertainty is becoming greater and greater because there's more and more variables. As our economy continues to globalize and what happens in this part of the world impacts another part of the world and vice versa, we have so many more influences that are impacting what that future could be, which creates just more uncertainty. So to be able to plan for that and to keep your eyes wide open for those sorts of things, it could be very easy to be myopic on today's goals. We're in the fourth quarter, if you will, and I got to make my numbers for the year or those sorts of things. We can be very myopic on what's happening today. And as leaders, you kind of have to have this bifurcated view. You got to be able to look at what's going on today, but also keep an eye to the future. And I think that's getting more difficult. I think the other part to that is we've got a lot of new tools and disruptors that are coming into play for us. So AI is certainly going to play a big role in everything that we do. I feel like AI is where we were when the World Wide Web was first introduced. Like everybody had to have a website, and we didn't know why we needed a website, but boy, we needed it. I'm seeing that right now in business too. We got to have an AI strategy. We got to have AI. We don't know really why yet, but we definitely need it. So AI is here. It's going to be here. I don't think it's been fully defined yet of how it's going to be 100% used. And it certainly depends upon your industry of how advanced you are in that already. But it's going to create further disruptions. It'll also create enablement. So it's one of those things where you have to be mindful of it, but also at the same time, in some ways, you need to lean into it as well and take advantage of what's available to you. Otherwise, you'll be left behind as being the ones that are looking at what happened with this technology, but with all of it being measured as you go. So there's the disruptors from other external factors. There's AI, and then I think just in general, particularly coming out of the pandemic, how we work is changed dramatically. During the pandemic, we all went virtual. And as we came out of the pandemic, we were going hybrid. We're in a place right now where organizations, I believe, have struggled with how we communicate with each other, how we collaborate in this hybrid world. So now we're demanding everybody to come back into the office. On the flip side of that, employees and workers are looking at, wait a minute, there's a different kind of lifestyle and work balance I want to have. And so there's some friction there, sometimes sad, sometimes unsaid. But the way that we work is also being challenged. I think it's all going to work itself out. But the new paradigm in how we work is also going to disrupt how we wind up negotiating. It used to be that we did a lot of things face to face, but now we're doing things like this virtually. We're doing things more asynchronistically over email, text. Even had a client ask me, how do you do this over TikTok? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. But those are the things that are out there that we all have to be mindful to. And I think for leaders today, it's getting more and more challenging with all the different elements that we have to consider. But I think if you do your best to keep your ears open, listen to multiple points of view. I think even if it's not something that you agree with, just listen to it. So you can have an understanding of different points of view. Don't just go seek the data to support your point of view, but go look at the data and then make your analysis and an opinion based upon that. I think if you can do those things, you'll be right more than you'll be wrong.
All excellent points. Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode. Brian, thanks so much for taking out this time to be with us.
Absolutely. Seth, thank you for the invitation. Enjoyed the conversation.
Of course. And thanks to all our viewers for tuning in. We'll see you on the next episode of the Forecast in 5.